So if I'm the early extender, I start normal, hips over the feet. I feel my right hip get higher than my left and deeper. And as I start my downswing, it feels like it stays higher than my left.
Yes, and deep.
And deeper. And I'm feeling that, you know, well, probably if you have the issue, you're feeling that
Forever.
all the way through the hip. So let's start with that first. So I got my hips under me. My right hip feels higher and deeper and stays higher and deeper. Yeah, and that feels really good for me.
Really good.
Hey guys, Eric here outside at the Bethlehem Golf Club. In today's video, we're gonna talk about hip depth and hip tilt, which really are the keys to eliminating your early extension. I mean, really eliminating your early extension for good. Obviously, to my left here, we have Mr. JT Thomas. You guys know JT from other videos. Hopefully you saw them. JT and I coach together. We do some in-person golf schools. We coach together on CogornoGolf.com. That's where you guys can send in your videos for us to analyze them, put a practice plan together for you, fix your early extension, right? If you guys have that in these videos. JT also just opened up a really cool indoor facility in Staten Island, Dollar Bill Divot Club. We'll put a link down for that below if you guys want to check that out this winter. So JT, hip depth and tilt, right?
Hip depth and tilt.
Hip depth and tilt. So we were talking right off camera, guys, about early extension, about the causes of early extension, and really what you need to have in there to have a good pivot and really eliminate early extension for good. And hip depth and hip tilt is kind of what we came up with
Lethal
this.
combo.
Yeah, perfect. Lethal combo to be able to eliminate the early extension for good. So let's talk through this, JT. What we see, let's say I come in, I have the normal issues, where I would start and some feels I would go through. And I think we think a lot of this starts with the setup position.
Setup, yeah. So
right.
let's do a
bad
bad set. Yeah, do a bad setup, Eric, here. So you notice here, Eric's butt basically. Enough? Yeah, it's bad enough now. You can do it even more. Yeah.
Like
So get his butt is way behind his heels here. No good. That's not what we want. So he's going to basically push his pelvis more towards the ball. Exactly, at setup. So now he has room to move into this and create some hip depth really in the backswing.
And probably, you know, a good amount, I don't know, 80%, it's a made up number, but that feels right.
Yeah.
Of people who have early extension, if you see your hips moving in towards the ball, either during the backswing or downswing, 80% of that comes from them being too far back at setup. You agree with that?
100%.
And so that's, you know, if we reference JT, let's say the middle of the hip, and I make a good setup, we want to have the middle of the hip, would you say, like middle of foot?
Yep.
Something like that.
Along with the ankle maybe, yeah.
And so if we're the golfer who's too far back, you would feel like you mentioned the hips more forward, and probably a lot of those players have a little too much tilt as well.
Tilt, yeah, exactly.
So they probably feel their belt buckle a little more level.
Yes.
Right, a little more up compared to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the setup piece. Now during the backswing, you know, that's something that's interesting too. A lot of people record themselves, JT, and they see, okay, during the downswing, my hips came in really far, but we see a lot that the backswing, the hips kick in a lot.
Yes.
Right? And so if I want to create some depth during my backswing, let's say we start with my right hip.
Perfect.
Right? What are some things I'd be looking to do with my right hip?
Yeah, so I think a feel we talked about a little bit was trying to get your right hip to more towards your right heel. So the feeling of it going back behind you, if we drew a line here, basically right behind your heel, the goal will be able to get a little bit, back and towards that in the backswing. As you turn. It's really important to add that little bit of turn piece. Great.
So it's
that
like
helps with the depth.
And it's like if we did like the line down the butt deal, I'm almost feeling as though my butt's maybe staying on that or even breaking through that line.
Yeah, breaking through that line is what we want. Yeah, if we draw
creating some depth.
Yes, creating some depth.
Okay.
What helps with that is you can have a little bit of push, so to help get your right hip higher, using a little bit of the ground push off that. Yeah, exactly. And that makes it a little bit easier to straighten the leg.
And so as I'm feeling that, I'm feeling my right hip go deeper and higher.
And higher.
And higher.
Yes, deeper and higher. So hip tilt and the depth.
Yeah. So my right hip goes up and back, and when I start down, I basically want to be able to keep that, right?
Yes.
So if I'm the early extender, I start normal, hips over the feet. I feel my right hip get higher than my left and deeper. And as I start my downswing, it feels like it stays higher than my left.
Yes, and deep.
And deeper. And I'm feeling that, you know, well, probably if you have the issue, you're feeling that
forever,
all the way through the hip. So let's start with that first. So I got my hips under me. My right hip feels higher and deeper and stays higher and deeper. Yeah, and that feels really good for me.
Really good.
And so, you know, the opposite of that, if I have, let's say I get the setup piece right, even if I have the backswing part, the opposite of me keeping my right hip higher than my left for longer would be it going lower and me having the hips forward and up part, right?
Exactly. So the hips kind of going on an angle this way diagonally versus hips going a lot more back and to the left.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yep. So that would be the left hip feel probably. So we talked a lot about the right hip.
Yep.
And how the right hip should feel. So we're going up to the top, getting that right hip depth and right hip tilt.
Yep.
Now the feel will be able to keep this right hip depth and tilt as we move the left hip away from the right hip. Yeah, great.
And then I'm feeling, JT, as I do that, you know, my right hip's higher than my left. That's the tilt part.
Yes.
And then, so my left hip's lower than my right, right? And I'm feeling that stays lower than my right, again, for a longer period of time.
Forever.
Okay.
A really cool part of this too, as you felt that, I think, is something that you have a lot of ability to use the ground or push. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. So left hip lower than my right and stays lower than my right.
Really
Yeah,
nice.
good. And that feels good too. Obviously that was a little too far left, but from that sensation of how my body's working. So that's even a good starting point, right? If someone has early extension or wants to fix their hip motion towards the ball, I've got two easy options there. Get my right hip up and back, keep my right hip higher than my left longer and deeper, or my left hip is lower than my right hip and it stays lower longer.
Yes.
I mean, those are two simple feels. As caveats, right? Like we could start every video with, if someone comes in and let's say the downswing's too steep or the club face is too open, they have to fix those first, right?
Yeah, working early extension is probably helping them more than it's hurting them.
Yeah, and that's what's tough, I think, for a lot of people, right? Is like, if you're someone who is super steep and the face is open, your early extension works for you. It shallows the club head out, right? It makes you hit pretty good shots with the steepness. And so initially when they're doing these, they probably want to get that shaft angle changed a little bit.
Yeah, to be able to hit the ball more solid to do these motions.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
So anything else you do with this? I mean, I think that's pretty good in terms of, the setup's important.
Yeah, setup's really important.
And I would say, like, don't assume you have that.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Definitely not.
Because, like, you could be set up really far back and it will not feel like it. Like, that will feel normal to you. So I would check that part first, maybe draw the line down the butt. Right hip, I really personally like the right hip higher, deeper, and keep it higher and deeper. Like that for me, JT, to keep some of that hip depth, feels really good. I'm gonna do one more.
And then I think, you know, something we always talk about is, you know, when to do it, right? So how important it is to say something is too much, you do it too soon, you do it too late.
Yep.
So then I think the only thing to really add into this is to making sure that we're not getting into that hip depth so early immediately to where we're straightening out that right leg, locking it out before. Yes, exactly. So we're getting into there. Yeah. That's no good either.
So the timing of it.
The timing of it. So you want to reach that hip depth as you're getting up to the top of the swing. So you can really move it into transition is really the key to curing it.
So it's more, if anything, later, a little later, kind of like the right arm being wider, right? Okay. So it's more of, I see the themes here.
Yes.
It's a little bit more of a later creation of the hip depth.
To move it in there, yeah.
Okay. Let's do one more with the right hip.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Started out
That's
really
as good as I can do, man.
I mean,
that's as good as I can hit them.
That's perfect.
So, beautiful. I don't think we need to complicate that anymore.
No, I think that's
pretty much it,
enough.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's the hip depth and the tilt. It's the hip depth and the tilt. And that's pretty straightforward, and that's gonna work if you work it. Now the key with that is there's no way in heck that someone's gonna swing, do that motion and know for sure if you did it correctly or not.
Yes.
I'd be willing to bet most all of us could do it more exaggerated
always
than we think. And if you do it correctly compared to your normal early extension, you should feel more compression. The ball should feel like it comes off the face hotter. That's how you do hip tilts. Right hip higher than the left, keep it higher. Left hip lower than the right, keep it lower, exaggerate. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. If you liked the video, do us a favor, click that like button down below, click the subscribe button, and also leave a comment down below. It really helps us out. The more interaction there is between us, YouTube likes that, sends our videos out to more people, really helps us. If you want to support the channel, you can do click that little like button down there. Appreciate that. If you do like these YouTube style videos, we're gonna put a card on the screen for a very similar video like this. If you wanna hop over to Cogorno Golf, check that out, see what it's all about, work with me so I can help improve your golf game. We'll also put that on the screen. Thank you guys for watching.